Music Business Radio is made possible in part by Avenue Bank, dedicated to serving the music business industry. Find out more at thedifferenceisreal.com.
From Music City, USA, it's David Hooper and Music Business Radio.
From the TuneIn Broadcasting Studios in Nashville, Tennessee, this is Music Business Radio, your backstage pass to the biz. I'm your host, David Hooper, and with me today, Craig Keene. He's worked with Kanye West, Ludacris, Beth Nielsen Chapman, T.I., Aaliyah, DJ Jazzy Jeff, and the Fresh Prince, Moni Love, Lords of the Underground, The Overweight Lover, Heavy D, and Ray Charles, just to name a few. He's a musician, songwriter, producer, and surprise, surprise, he's from Nashville. Craig, welcome to Music Business Radio.
Thank you.
So I want to start off talking about auditions because you've got some interesting audition story, one particular with Ray Charles.
Oh, yeah. What would you like to know about that audition?
How did you find out about it? A lot of people would like to play with a guy like Ray Charles.
You know what? I was 19 years old. I was playing at a church in Roanoke, Virginia, because I went to Howard University. And on certain weekends, the mayor, who happened to be a pastor of the church in Roanoke, he would fly me in for special occasions, church anniversary, Easter programs, all the big stuff he would fly me in for. It so happened that Ray Charles was going to be in Roanoke, Virginia. He was doing something at the Civic Center there, okay? And Ray's people called him because he was the mayor. And they said, we're looking for someone that has great chops and could, sit in with like a Ray Charles caliber artist. And by him being the mayor, he said, you know what? I could probably get on the phone with a lot of different people, but I got a guy that's really close to my heart. I want to call him and give him an opportunity. Even if he doesn't get the gig, it's a great opportunity for him.
Yeah.
And so he asked me to come in. He said, I'll pay for you to just get down here, man. And I said, okay. And I told my professors I got an opportunity to go and audition for Ray. I mean, I just had some incredible professors in school, man, and they were all old school, cigarette-smoking musicians that were just killer.
So they were fans.
Oh, they were just pure fans, and they were like, well, if you don't get it, I'm going to go down there, too, and all that kind of stuff. And they said, yeah, you go ahead and you do that, And I don't even know if they really thought I was going to be able to hold that one down, but it was just a cool idea.
Yeah.
But I went, and I was sitting on the organ. It must have been about 30-something guys in front of me. All their hats were tipped, and they all had cigarettes, too,
So you were the youngest guy.
I was the youngest lad there, and it was cool, man. I saw Miss Victoria. She was doing something with the harp, and she was telling everybody what to do, and Ray had her on, like, running speed dial, like everything, just running around the room. And all of a sudden, I sat down, and I had my moment to just kind of do what I do, and he said, play a gospel song. He just switched it up on everybody. He just kept telling everybody to do different stuff. Play me a gospel song. And I played Amazing Grace. And he said, now do something else. Do something, play. And he named another song. And I played that. And he said, Victoria, put some sheet music in front of him. Put some sheet music in front of him. And then I played that. And he said, that's who I want. You can just stop the audition right now. Just stop him. And I don't have to tell you, my heart stopped.
We need to tell him about Billy Preston, who Billy Preston was, the shoes you were filling, because big time.
Ooh, yeah, Beatles. I mean, yeah, this guy, he's done it all, man.
Will It Go Round in Circles? That's a song that most people probably would know.
Yeah, and he has had some his fingers have touched some incredibly popular projects, to say the least. And by the way, fortunately for me, I didn't have a clue who he was until after the fact.
I was just going to ask you that.
I was super naive.
How you dealt with the pressure of that.
I was super naive, and I thank God for that. I'm so glad I was that kid because I didn't try to imitate his sound.
Yeah.
A lot of the old heads were in there doing his licks. I didn't know what his licks sounded like. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I was just doing what I do. As Russell Simmons says, I was doing me. But I guess Ray saw that there was no clone in the room, and he gravitated to that. And when he found out how old I was, he thought it was the most hilarious thing in the world. Then he started hitting me on the head, called me his little great-grandson and all this stuff. But it was cool, man. It was cool to see Mr. Ray at work and how he does things in his ear, how he can catch anything all the way down to, did you play that with your pinky or your ring finger? He's really got just a ridiculous ear, and it helped me out a lot.
Yeah, there's stories of him, like an orchestra playing behind him. He'll pick out the violin. Say, hey, third violin.
Oh, he's really, his ears, take your foot off the floor. You know, I hear your pedals. He's just really, he's special.
So what's the one thing that you learned from him? Because legendary.
One thing?
Well, give me a list of them.
I can't do that either because too many stories are blending. But I can tell you that I liked his personal advice probably more than his musical advice because I think he really wanted me to maintain my own musical integrity. I think his thing was just, you do what you got to do, but just, keep your nose clean. That's what you need to do. Watch your money, protect your interest, protect your brand, and keep your nose clean.
Well, and he'd been through that, man. So that was coming from a guy who really got that.
He had seen it, man. He had seen it, and he gave the best hugs. He really did, man. He gave those grandfather hugs.
That'd be important, I imagine, because it's got to be kind of intimidating. One minute you're in music school, and the next minute you're playing for civic centers and who knows who else.
Let me tell you, it changed my whole perspective when I got back to college. You can believe that.
David Hooper here, Music Business Radio, talking with Craig King today. He's played with Kanye West, Ludacris, T.I., and we're talking about his time with Ray Charles. So talk about going back to school. Was it the same for you? I mean, you've probably been going to school all this time wanting to get a gig like that, and now you got one.
To be honest with you, it was, I couldn't get back into the flow of school.
I can understand why.
Man, that was really hard on me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I couldn't see school the same way because I'm getting an opportunity to do something that my professors a lot of them hadn't gotten a chance to do,
Right.
They were still gigging up at the local clubs, Blues Alley and all that, but when a Ray comes through, they're just like, oh, you know what I mean? And here I am, a kid going, I'm working with Ray, and I'm not really understanding it because I didn't grow up on his music.
Right.
My dad flipped out, but I'm going, yeah, right, yeah, I'm working with Ray. I just didn't fully get it until after school, actually. I just knew that I had been pricked by this bug of working on stages with a guy who he sparkled the moment he hit the stool. Hey, everything just becomes electric.
So talk about growing up. You mentioned that your pastor kind of got you the gig, gave you the introduction.
Not my pastor. No, this was a pastor in Roanoke, Virginia. My pastor was here in Nashville at the time.
Oh, okay, so this was a guy who just flew you in for the music.
Yeah, he was flying me in because he had heard me play on one occasion in Virginia and just, I want him to come every time we do big gigs.
Okay, that must have been impressive.
I guess.
Well, talk about growing up and how you got to play like that because, music education is something that we're looking at right now in a different way than we looked at 20 or 30 years ago. A lot of people are getting it from the church. Talk about, how'd you learn how to play like this and talk about growing up.
Well, I was a drummer at my church over on 10th Avenue South in Nashville, Tennessee, called Greater Christ Temple. We had a beast organist. He was a beast. His name was Nelson Dunlap. And people would come from miles around to just see this man's hands move around those keys. I had a cousin who was also a beast on the piano and organ down in Florida. Blair School of Music offered him scholarships. He didn't get it. He didn't want it. Just want to play R&B, man. Just didn't get it, My family would try to explain to him what Blair was because my mom, we lived here, but his mom was going, hey, Blair, that sounds like something for the blind people or something. They just didn't get it. So Blair music for the blind. So basically, our organist, when he stepped down from playing, we were just organless, which means we were melodyless, which means we were just rhythm driven.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Like a drum circle.
It's just a drum deal. So now we're in some tent in Africa on the south side of Nashville. And with a choir, just singing away with a drummer. And it got to a point where every now and then I would run in there and play little chords that my cousin would, had taught me. And one Sunday, our blind pastor walked in on me playing these just retarded chords, nothing of any value. And he said, who's that playing on the organ? Because he couldn't see us. And all the kids said, that's Craig King, sir. That's Craig King on the organ. Because we weren't supposed to turn the organ on. It was a big.
It's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It's a Hammond. Come on. You ain't playing the, And he said, is that you, Craig King? And I said, yes. And he goes, don't get off of it. Just stay on there then. Just stay on there. You're going to play tonight.
Wow.
And I'm like, I can't play. You know what I mean?
See, that's more intimidating than Ray Charles.
Oh, man. That's why I'm used to dealing with blind men. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they told my mom for night service, Craig's going to be on the organ or the piano, whatever he wants to do. He's going to be playing, So they took a situation where I was really just goofing off and turned it into basically my life profession. You know what I mean? Because what happened was I was forced to play. As horrible as it sounded, they wouldn't let me up. And it eventually turned into real music. It's almost like they opened a vault inside of me that was already there that I didn't know existed, but I needed to be prompted.
You know, there's something to be said for that. I mean, having the opportunity. And do you think these kids coming up today, like in school or church, are getting those opportunities?
Well, I would say in the church, yes. But in the schools, absolutely not. I see it every day. No. There's just no way around it, and that's why Grammys in the schools and all these programs are breaking their necks to see what we can do to get this thing to live on, because you can hear it. You can hear it in every way, too.
Well, you know, kids want to make music. We see it with samples and with computers now. You know, we can do a lot of cool things that weren't available 10 or 20 years ago. So they want to make music. It's how they're making music, and it'll be interesting to see, you know, where that goes. Any thoughts on where it is going to go?
No, I don't have a clue, to be honest with you, because you know what? There was a time when we called hip-hop not music. It was born out of a lack of instruments. You know what I mean? A whole lot of samples. DJs were making a living playing samples and cutting and scratching them. And I've talked to some DJs. Jazzy Jeff was one of the ones that first told me that when I cut, it's like playing the guitar. It's like wah-wah and skanks. And on a certain level, that art form was born out of a lack thereof. So I'm afraid to say what it's going to become. I can only assure you that it's going to become. Because the human being, our appetite, we won't let it die. We'll find a way to make music out of rubber bands if we have to. That's just who we are. I hate the fact that we're losing the educational side. I hate the fact that you can become the producer of the year and not know what key your song was in.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I hate that. But other than that, the music lives on. Now, how we educate, that's a different conversation.
Speaking of producer of the year, you're also a producer. We haven't gotten into that. When we come back, more from Craig King. We're going to talk about his production work. That's next on Music Business Radio.
This is David Groh with HowlingMusic.com.
This is Holly Baranski from Four Corners Artist Management.
Hey, this is Pat Higdon from Universal Music Publishing.
Hi, I'm Dale Turner with Lyric Street Records, and you're listening to Music Business Radio.
On the web at musicbusinessradio.com.
Why can't a bank get back to me as fast as I get back to them? I mean, someone asks me a question, I give them an answer right there. But when you go to some banks for help and they tell you that you have to wait while they go out of town to get answers, that's just plain annoying. On the other hand, at Avenue Bank, all the financial decisions are made right here in Nashville. So when you go to Avenue with a request, you get a response, not a big delay. I like that. You will too. Avenue Bank, member FDIC.
This is Blake Calhoun, class of 2021, and you're listening to Music Business Radio.
And speaking of the future of music, there it is. David Hooper here, Music Business Radio. Craig King in the studio with me. He's worked with Ludacris, T.I., DJ Jazzy Jeff, and the Fresh Prince, Moni Love, just to name a few. You know, one of the great things about Music Business Radio is some of the behind-the-scenes chat that we have. And during the break, we were talking about Craig's church. It turns out it's down the street from where I live and where my producer lives. We're both living in the neighborhood.
Praise the Lord.
Yeah, you mentioned Waylon Jennings used to come to that church to hear you play.
Yeah. Waylon and Jesse, too, yeah. He's come hang out at the church. And I was a young lad. He first heard me playing the drums. Every now and then he'd give me that good old nod that I did a good job, that I done good, boy, you know. And I'd go and sit next to him, and all my friends would go, who is he sitting next to? Who's that old white man, you know?
Yeah, right. Because there are not a whole lot of them in that church. I mean, we're just going to say it right now.
Yeah, let's start there. There are not a whole lot of bearded, older white gentlemen at the church. That's true. And the size belt buckles that he wore, the height of the boots.
Kind of stood out.
Yeah. And then he occasionally drove the General Lee to the church, and the kids loved that. So, yeah, you didn't see that every Sunday. No, that's true. He actually donated a bus to our church. So we're fond of good old Waylon at the church. Yeah.
And Willie and Waylon and the boys.
Yes.
Hanging out at the church. It sounds like kind of word was getting out about the music. And it's funny, another thing that just off mic, our producer said, man, I run by that church. Is that your church? Because there's always music coming from there. So it's still going on.
Man, it's a disco in there, man.
Well, no wonder it's lined up down the street.
Yeah, oh yeah, they go hard in there. Yeah.
Well, I want to talk about your producing. Quincy Jones was sort of involved in the Ray Charles tour that you did. I know
he conducted the whole deal, yeah.
Certainly you were getting exposure to amazing producers. What was your first experience when somebody came up to you and said, hey, man, produce me?
Funny story. I didn't know what producers were until I encountered a guy. I was on a double date with a guy and two girls, yeah. And we were in school, and I had just done a demo on a friend's 8-track. And I was so anxious to let the people who I was on a date with hear the demo. So I said, check this out. When I took it out, everybody was like, oh, that's hot. It was just a track, He's like, that's hot. So the girls said, you did that? And I said, yeah. And he goes, you produced that? And I said, nah, I did the music. And and he said, that would be considered production, And I said, he was an upperclassman too, so that was cool, I didn't feel too bad. Right. And I said, really? He said, yeah, that's production, man. And I said, oh, okay. So he said, so that means you're a producer. I said, oh, okay. And so that was the first time I even knew what the word meant.
Yeah.
So the first time I got actually employed to do a job was with Will Smith. It was the Summertime album. That was my first attempt at it. It was my first double platinum album.
Talk about how you met him.
Okay, well, I had done a demo in Philadelphia. I had some girls on the demo who were singers, one of which Jazzy Jeff ran into at a talent show. He liked her voice and said, do you have anything that you're a CD or something you can give me with your voice on it? She says, I have a CD, but it's not my music. I'm singing on it, but it's not my music. It's for a pop rock group, which I happen to be a member of, this pop rock group, and I used her as a background singer on it. Mm-hmm. It was kind of a black Tears for Fears, okay? Jazzy Jeff heard the music and said, this is crazy. I dig your voice, but who did the tracks? So she said, Craig King, but he doesn't live in Philly. He's kind of between D.C. and Philly, and I think he's in Tennessee right now. He was right, because I was in Nashville for a week. Will Smith called my parents and said, we got this demo up here, and we want to know if Craig King can come up to Philly. And my dad said, well, who are you? He said, Fresh Prince. And my dad said, hold on. Son, somebody named Fresh Prince is on the phone. I said, hey, what's up? And he goes, this is Fresh Prince, man. Me and Jazzy Jeff was trying to see if you can come up to Philly and kick it with us on some music stuff.
Did you think it was a joke?
At the moment, I was just like the rapper, Fresh Prince, because, he said, yeah, Gene Norris, da-da-da-da. I said, oh, all right, what's up? Okay. But I wasn't like the biggest fan. I was a huge fan of getting money for my music.
Oh, absolutely.
So it just so happened that at the time when I got to Philly, I went back to Philly, and Benny Medina, Will Smith, and Jazzy Jeff sat me down, and we did a contract, a 6-month trial period, just kind of see if it would work out where I would become like a producer in-house. Mm-hmm. And Jazzy Jeff and I, we really just bonded and started making records together and ended up with about 6 sides on that album. Fortunately for me, because Jazzy Jeff was the other half of the group, I got the opportunity to travel with these guys everywhere.
Yeah.
So now there's a TV show about to happen, and I'm going back and forth to L.A., so now I'm seeing Quincy for real. You know what I mean?
Right,
and now I'm seeing the president of NBC for real, and now I'm getting an opportunity to see how TV shows are made and how albums are made and how tours are put together, all at the same time. At the tender age of 20, it's all kind of mind-boggling. And at this point, I am a fan of Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince, because now I'm getting it. I'm seeing the whole movement.
Talk about going on the road with them, because they had a huge tour back then. It had Naughty by Nature, Kid and Play, Queen Latifah, Tribe Called Quest, Busta Rhymes. That's quite a package tour. Talk about that. Was that really the I know you've been on the Ray Charles tour, but had you ever been on anything this big?
Never. I mean, Ray had a whole different demo, too. His demographic was just so different, So being on tour with Ray, you're not going to find too many groupies, not looking for me, We had a ball. Let's start with that. We had a ball. I mean, that was hip-hop royalty at its finest. every city was just like a festival. It wasn't like a tour. It was like, you know, you go to the mall, we're all in our hotel rooms calling each other like, are y'all going? Where's Kid and Play going? Where y'all? Which mall? So we all meet at the same mall. It turns the mall into pandemonium. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then that was also when we discovered that the Fresh Prince show had really struck contact. It had touched down in America.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting, isn't it? Because you're working on it, just like we're working on this radio show. You don't have any idea where it's going to go.
We had no clue with the impact. I mean, it was coming on Mondays now. It was kind of coming on Monday nights. But the thing is, we didn't know the impact it had on America. So we're on this tour with Naughty by Nature, Public Enemy. These guys, everybody had hit records at the time.
Yeah.
And yet, once we hit Texas, I remember that was the first time we realized that the show was on the air. All of a sudden, people didn't even see the rest of the artists. It was all, oh my God, there's Fresh Prince. Because now you got grandmamas running up to you.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, literally, you know, 50-year-old white grandmoms with their grandkids running up to us saying, we love your show. They don't even know about the music. They don't even care about the music. And that's when we realized we had to get police escorts and all. I mean, it just turned into a different animal. And all the other rappers were going, what's going on? What's happening with him? Why are they carrying our friend out? You know, did he steal something? You know, Will, stop stealing, man. But no, it was just a different animal. It was like TV changed our whole perspective on rap because all of a sudden, for the first time ever, this genre was introduced to mainstream, Main Street.
Right.
You know?
Music Business Radio, David Hooper here. My guest today, Craig King. He's worked with T.I., DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, Moni Love, Heavy D, and Ray Charles, just to name a few. You know, we talked earlier about, you know, musical education for kids, and I think that's one of the coolest things about, you know, urban music is the samples. You know, it's exposing kids to music they might not have otherwise heard and getting them familiar with old R&B samples or old disco samples or country samples or whatever they're sampling.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, children, whether they like it or not, they're being constantly reminded of their past or music's past through samples. And it keeps reminding them that, hey, man, you can't front on our old Dizzies and Louis and, you know what I mean? And old, you know, Ray Charles stuff. You can't front on that because it's a part of how we got here, too. You know, we didn't just get here. It's very easy to just make yourself the man. You know what I mean? But we're really not. There are a whole lot of other guys that were the men. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You think that you're inventing the wheel when it's already been done.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes much better.
Absolutely. And you hear your song on the radio, you go, I'm the only guy that's on the radio. It's this thing that happens in your head.
You know, it's funny. I got a funny Fresh Prince story for you. I remember being in the car when, I don't even know what the name of the song is. It's a Clash sample. And 2000 Millennium something or another. And I remember my little sister was like, yeah, isn't this cool? And I was like, man, that's just the Clash.
Yeah.
And she never heard of it. You know what I mean? So it turned her on to some brand new stuff.
Absolutely. And the Clash, they were incredible. Were they around long?
How long were they around? I don't know, 5 or 6 years. He went on to go do Big Audio Dynamite, which was a huge.
Cool.
They sampled Barry White. They sampled all sorts of stuff that you wouldn't have thought.
Yeah, they did all kind of big band stuff.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, I remember the hair. I remember the hair now.
But it just keeps going from one thing to another, and that's kind of the interesting thing I think about your career. Everything just seems to flow into. Talk about some more of those other kind of weird coincidences that you had, because I know you worked with Quincy Jones, kind of taking it back to the Ray Charles thing. Kind of started something that had Quincy involved, then eventually you were producing one of Quincy's pet projects.
Yeah, you know what? I was just thinking about him. I'm glad you brought Mr. Q up, because I was just thinking about something he said that I kind of use as advice a lot, and I hand this advice to a lot of my friends in the industry. This has nothing to do with this interview, but I use this information all the time, so it may help your audience. He said that there's something called leveling out a room. I don't know if he used the term leveling out, but it's kind of what it felt like to me, so I call it leveling out a room. And what it is basically is it's when you work with people and they're in awe over you, but you need the highest level of productivity from them. You bring them into your fold by coming exactly to the level where they are. I saw it on a couple occasions, and one of the times was when we were in the studio recording, he ordered a Subway sandwich. He insisted on a Subway sandwich. He had a gourmet chef that came and made lobster tails and all this stuff. And he goes, I don't want that crap. I want a Subway. So, I was anxious to eat the lobster tails, you know what I mean? I could smell it from the studio, you know. But he sent some runner out to get the subway, and he got a really long one. And then what he did was interesting. He cut it up and offered it to everyone in the room. That's leveling out a damn room. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Including the guy that went and got the sandwich. Hey, no, man, come on, you can have some.
Yeah.
And so what happened is after that, everyone's anxiety melted away because he made everyone feel like we were all equal. We're just trying to do a job. Mm-hmm. Hey, man, no one in here is special. And I've been in settings where the rapper or the rocker says, yo, man, what's going on? I told you this. I said this an hour ago. I still ain't got it. Well, what happens is you lose so much momentum in the session when you're yelling at people or you're being rude because they're already there prepared to work for you. They know they're there for that reason.
Right.
You don't have to remind them over and over and over again. You know what I mean? And belittle them. And you end up with less productivity. You almost end up having to shut the session down sometimes. Or you do shut it down because everyone's all ruffled now. No one's comfortable.
Right.
And I got that from him, and I've had to deliver that message to several of my friends in studio sessions because they're coming in with this huge I thing going on. You know what I mean?
Well,
me.
Great advice for producers. I mean, anytime you're dealing with an artist.
Great advice for producers.
I mean, artists are crazy just between you and me.
Yes. And that's actually sometimes just great advice for artists.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of artists, you have a new artist that you're working with. I also want to talk about remixes, country, urban, rock, hybrids. That's next when we come back on Music Business Radio.
This is Alan Shacklock, record producer to Roger Daltrey, Andrew Lloyd Webber, Jeff Beck, Meatloaf, and Babe Ruth. And you're listening to Music Business Radio.
Why can't a bank offer you the kind of technology that actually helps your company's productivity? I'm not talking about a computer that takes the place of a banker, but technology that, I don't know, maybe lets you deposit checks right from your own office. At Avenue Bank, they have it and they'll tell you all about it. It's safe and secure and it saves time. And isn't that what technology is supposed to do? Avenue Bank. The difference is real. Member FDIC.
Hey, this is Tess Rogers. I'm an intern for Best Built Songs this summer, and I've learned more listening to Music Business Radio than I have in 4 years of college.
Music Business Radio, on the web at musicbusinessradio.com.
From the TuneIn Broadcasting Studios in Nashville, Tennessee, it's Music Business Radio. I'm your host, David Hooper, and with me today, Craig King. He's worked with Aaliyah, T.I., Ludacris, Kanye West, Lords of the Underground, Ray Charles, just to name a few. He's a musician, songwriter, and producer. And Craig, you've bounced around this country. I mean, L.A., Nashville, Washington, Philly, Atlanta. We haven't talked about Atlanta yet. I guess you're picking up various styles and the way things are done from these different locations that you've been. Talk about Atlanta, what you learned down there and what you kind of picked up.
Man, that's an interesting town. Let me tell you how I got into Atlanta, because I was actually on the way to Los Angeles again. And I was about to do a cross-country move, moving back to L.A. I had spent a lot of time out there already, and one of my best friends lives there, and I was like, you know what, it's time to take a trip. I had just left Jersey. I was living in Jersey at the time, and the whole 9/11 thing happened, and it just threw me off my square. I was just kind of, it hit a lot of guys that I knew the same way.
Oh, yeah, it definitely makes you think.
Yeah, and I lived on the water, on the Hudson, so I was facing.
So you saw it.
Yeah, I was smoke in my house, you know what I mean? So it was just a weird time. And a lot of my neighbors didn't come home that night, so they actually worked in World Trade. So it was just all really weird. And I was headed to L.A., and my sisters both lived in Atlanta. Stopping through Atlanta to give them a shout-out, to say hi to the family. It just so happens that while I was in town, I had done a record with a guy named Jermaine Dupri. And we were having a conversation, Jermaine, myself, and Tommy Mottola, about this song being a single. And there was a bunch of weird stuff going on with the song. So I said, let me just face-to-face with him and see if we can't sort this stuff out. While I was talking to him, a friend of mine introduced me to Usher. I'd already met Usher once through Aaliyah because he came to a few of my Aaliyah sessions years before. So he was like, yeah, I remember you. And so we were about to do a contract. He wanted to kind of see if we couldn't do some kind of production company together or whatever. So we were working on something, and then all of a sudden, somebody said, have you had a conversation with Ludacris yet? Because he's the mayor out here, man. He's doing big things, you know. And he just had a His own albums were doing incredible, and then he had other artists. He had just done a big label deal with Def Jam and Universal. I said, let me talk to this guy before I sign anything. I couldn't find him. And I was like, why can't I find this guy? This is weird. Like, I can find anybody else, but I can't seem to get him on the phone. I couldn't figure that out. So Kanye called me, said, I'm in Atlanta today. I got a session with Ludacris. I said, okay.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. So I went in, we met, and Kanye introduced us and said, this is Craig King, he's hip-hop royalty. You got to know him. If you don't know him, boo da boo. Luda said, you got a CD with you, man? I said, yeah, I got a little something in the car. I gave it to him. That night he called me and said, yo, you got a track on my next album. So that's how that happened. And from that moment, we just bonded. So I was like, all bets are off on any other contract in town. And we ended up doing 3 projects together. So that kind of sealed my time in Atlanta. And it was perfect because I was close to Nashville. So I could come all the time and see my mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
I could have home-cooked meals, go to that church we talked about.
Sure, you rock out at the church.
You know what I mean? And then go back to Atlanta and play around with chicken and beer. You hang out with Luda. You know what I mean? Hang out and eat chicken and beer.
Well, speaking of Ludacris, it's kind of a funny coincidence. You got a video on your site. You're playing a Ray Charles song with Ludacris on a Quincy Jones show. It's a small world, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it really is. What, 1 degree of separation here?
Well, you know, in Ray Charles, something I always think about him, a lot of people don't know. You know, he was involved with the country music. He did R&B music, gospel music. He did all sorts of cool stuff. And that's something that you're doing now in remixes. A lot of these country guys out here in Nashville, this is why you're perfect for it. They're loving like the rock and the urban style mixes. Talk about what you're doing with club mixes now.
Well, you know what? I just decided last year that I wanted to stretch the imagination of Nashville a little bit. It seems so open for growth. When I left here, I didn't feel that way. Now that I'm back here, I totally feel that way. Everybody I talk to, man, it's just, yo, we love that hip-hop stuff. We love that urban stuff. We love it, you know. And I got a lot of friends that wear cowboy hats telling me this stuff. You know what I mean? I'm excited about that because you got to realize now I came up asking Waylon, what do you think I should do? And him saying, man, I don't know what you can do here. And it was a sincere response because we were genuinely friends, you know what I mean? Right. He wasn't saying it to keep me away from the cheese. He meant that. Like, you might want to go somewhere else to get this.
Right.
So coming home now and running into some of the same guys I ran into around that time, much older, but same guys, they're like, hey, man, welcome home. And, you know, we got some work for you.
Right. They've been waiting for you.
Yeah, come on in. And what's happening is that if you go to a typical country club, they're playing country music. But at a certain point of the night, you're hearing Nelly slipping in there. You're hearing Kanye slipping in there. You're hearing T-Pain and Lil Wayne.
Yeah.
It's sneaking in there
sometimes
now.
They're doing duets.
Absolutely.
That's really weirding me out.
It's really crazy. So I'm not so much the pink elephant in the room anymore.
Right.
You know? That's kind of fun. So what's happening is now I'm finding myself doing projects where we're infusing hip-hop elements into great country records. I tell you, if they ever let me sample a great Hank Williams single, we're going to have some problems in the dance clubs. I'm telling you that right now.
Might have to white label that one.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, oh, yeah.
Craig King is in the studio with me today. He's worked with Kanye West, Ludacris, T.I., Moni Love, Lords of the Underground, Heavy D, and more. You got a new project now, B. you're working with.
Oh, yeah.
And kind of give her background. For
well,
everybody.
Angie, she's a veteran. She came up through the Hammer era. She sang with Hammer on all his big records. And she is doing a comeback deal now. So we're in the process of working not on her album, but the television show, the reality. Yeah, we're getting into all that now. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Because they love her. People still miss her. She's just an incredible dancer. She's got 2 children now. She's 40-something, and it's a good time for what she's doing.
Right.
And she inspires a lot of people because she moves now just like she moved 20 years ago.
Yeah. Plus, she's kind of bringing something fun back.
She's bringing
music
fun,
has changed, and Hammer was all about fun and dancing. And
yes. He has a show, too, coming out on A&E. So it's like we're probably going to be bouncing back and forth.
He's everywhere
and tour
now.
with him, and just we're going to have some fun again. I miss those days in hip-hop. So I'm excited that fun music is coming back. And she's a really good girl, man. I have to let you hear something.
Well, let's check it out right now.
Okay.
Intro it for me.
All right. Well, this is B. Angie B. The song is called Get Up and Dance.
B. Angie B. on Music Business Radio. The song Get Up and Dance. The producer, Craig King, is in the studio, and you're also on that track as well.
Yeah, I'm talking a little trash in and out. Yeah.
I want to know how you find out about new talent.
Well, they typically get at me on MySpace or on my website, craigaking.com, or Facebook. I mean, these children, man, they have opportunities that we didn't have back in the day.
They have their ways.
Yeah, when we used to park in front of Universal and CBS and sleep all night and hope that you catch a mogul walking through. You know, we were just we just didn't have the same luxuries.
So let's say they get to you What is it about their music that grabs your attention?
Uniqueness. Yeah. Things that sort of jump out the radio. And it may not be well produced. There are things that they're always lacking, but there are other things that when they jump out at you, you go, oh, yes, though, you know. Yesterday I told I was on the stage at a high school here in town, and I said, listen, I'm going to do something I never do. I'm going to ask any two kids in this entire senior student body to just walk up to the stage and spit 16 bars with no cursing. One kid stood up. With all those kids, one kid, only one kid could do it.
Well, it takes guts, too.
It takes a lot of guts, but it also shows you that most of the kids are imitating what they think we want to hear.
Right.
Instead of just digging in and being who they are.
Right.
Someone's got to have the ability to write a record without a curse. But they're figuring, hey, you curse, you might get a couple of bucks. So it's all that other stuff going on in there. So what I look for is things that don't fit in. And then we find a way to make it work. That's kind of where I am with it, you know.
Well, I always say from a marketing standpoint, they zig, you zag. You don't want to be lumped in. There's a lot of explicit records already out there.
Absolutely. So. And the line is so much longer to the top if you choose that route. Whereas if you come in different, the line is really short. So you get a much faster look.
Back door.
Yes.
Craig, speaking of new acts bending your ear, we've got a section we call Dave's Demo Derby. This is where bands, musicians, songwriters from around the world send us packages. We've got a big chest here right in between us. We're going to reach into the mailbag, pull out a CD, put it on. I'm going to have you critique it right here on the air. It's Dave's Demo Derby when we come back on Music Business Radio.
Hi, this is Clay Myers with Still Workin' Music, and you're listening to Music Business Radio, the best show ever.
You're listening to Music Business Radio on the web at musicbusinessradio.com.
Why can't visiting a bank be more like visiting your favorite neighborhood restaurant, where you walk in and are immediately welcomed and appreciated, where a banker actually greets you, shakes your hand, and calls you by your name, not by your credit score or your account number, but by your name? At Avenue Bank, we call that concierge service, and it may not be what you'd expect from a bank, but it's what you'd like a bank to be. Visit thedifferencesreal.com. Avenue Bank. Member FDIC.
Hi, this is Tim McFadden. You know, I've worked for RCA Records and Sony, and I started Giant Records and B&A and all of these record labels, but I have to say that everything I've ever learned, I've learned from listening to Music Business Radio.
This is Music Business Radio. I'm your host, David Hooper, and right now it's time for that part of the show we call Dave's Demo Derby.
What's up?
My guest today, Craig King. He's worked with Kanye West, Ludacris, T.I., DJ Jazzy Jeff, and the Fresh Prince, among others. In the middle of us is a big box full of demos. We're going to reach in, pull out a CD, play it, and then Craig and I will comment on it. Craig, you ready for this?
Yes, I am.
All right, first up, we got a band called This Episode. They are out of Nashville, Tennessee, and the song Move On. This Episode out of Nashville, Tennessee. The song Move On. Craig, what do you think about that?
A little sparse. I like the melody. I actually like the guy's voice, though. He kind of reminded me of Roland Gift from, like, Fine Young Cannibals. You remember those guys?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Remember Roland got, like, Singer of the Year one time. He's really different. This guy had that with an accent.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought it was a little sparse for me. I couldn't really understand the space in certain places.
It's funny you mentioned, I was thinking like Morrissey, who's also a very eclectic, kind of different vocalist, but I was having a hard time placing. I was trying to look for a better comparison, within that snippet that we had. But yeah, it was definitely stood out to me, and certainly the bass and drums were tight and on rhythm, which I always appreciate.
Me too. Absolutely.
A lot of guys,
hey man,
they can't play on time.
You're right, man. Yeah. By the way, I actually like the way the track was built. I just wasn't so comfortable with some of the space. Maybe that's an engineer's role. Maybe he comes in and he adds some delay or something there. But I just kept feeling like the bottom was falling out at certain points.
But being the super producer that you are, you see that potential.
Oh, yeah. I understood the move on experience.
All right. Next up, out of New York City, New York, the act Jennings, the song Falling Higher.
Fade from gray to green, a bask in your aquamarine dream, cascading hair falling around your face, chaotically without one misplaced, and you make me laugh when I'm mad, and you make me smile when I'm sad, and I hate that I'm lost in love, and I'm falling higher, I hate the way you don't have to shower every day, but still wake up in the same way. When all I do is dress to impress, then you say I'd be better off in less, and you make me laugh when I'm mad, and you make me smile when I'm sad, and I hate that I'm lost in love, and
Out of New York City, New York, the act Jennings, the song Falling Higher. How about it, Craig?
Well, Jennings, now let me just tell you right here, I really like this one.
Me too, man. I'm ready to buy it. I want that
I wanted
CD.
to steal this. You're not getting this one back. This is a pitchy record. Of course, she's really pitchy, but that can be worked out.
Just auto-tune that out.
Love, yeah, we'll T-Pain her to death. But I tell you what, I really like the mix of the instruments, man.
Oh, yeah.
Let's stop for a moment just to pay a tribute to this producer. Let's give this guy some real love because he took the right risk. And that's what I'm talking about when I say things that stand out. Like, he had no rules, man. He just went there. I heard Dr. Dre bass synth with all kind of 808s from, like, it was just crazy. But then the piano was real nice and fluffy. And, man, that guy, this is great. I love this. Okay.
It reminded me of this band called Frou Frou.
Okay.
Imogen Heap. Same kind of voice and that same, it's just not something that you hear every day. And she's obviously a great vocal talent. Pitchy, maybe. I'm with you on that. But it just kind of cut through, though. I don't know if it's the mix or whatever it was.
Rose above the noise.
Yep. All right. So if you like that, it's Jennings-music.com. Got another local for you, Craig. It's Jennifer Dixon. The song is Too Tired to Care.
When I walked into the room, you were down, I was down. I was up looking round and round. Wasn't saying anything that you wanted to hear. I guess I wasn't good. Yeah, I know what you want us to be. But what you want, is it really, really good for me? It really isn't good for me. Oh, yeah, I know that it's time to be leaving. When I know that I'm already there. How can I find an answer when I'm caught up in the question? Am I too tired to care? What's the matter with me? Is it a matter of everything that we'll never be?
Out of Nashville, Tennessee, it's Jennifer Dixon, the song Too Tired to Care. And Do You Care, Craig King?
Well, the deal with that is that they flirted with a more traditional sound, kind of a funk, R&B flavor kind of thing. And if you're going to flirt with that, you got to nail it, because there's just too much room for error in that world. They didn't nail it. And then, of course, I was annoyed by the skank guitar on the right. I needed to be at least somewhere in the 2 o'clock panning phase. I was distracted by the fact that the guitar was hard right for me, so I couldn't really shake that distraction to get down to her vocal. And then when I did finally get to her vocal, it left me wanting more heart and soul for that genre that they've chosen. So,
you know, personally, I thought there was like some raw element there that would have worked with the right production, musicianship, recording.
Yeah, their heart's in the right place, but I don't know if their abilities are there yet.
Craig, it's been a pleasure having you here. This has been incredible. So thank you for dropping in today.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
One final question for you, for all the upcoming producers, for all the upcoming musicians, the guys in the practice room practicing right now. What keeps you motivated?
I have a lot of different kind of motivations here now. I have to be honest with you, man. The kids, the state of the community, there are a lot of things going on in my head. So I'd have to say music kept me out of trouble. And so I just hope that these young people plunge themselves into the process of making records and learning not just the equipment, but the theory of the process and the theory of music. And so that, you know, Quincy told me that you have to be a student of your craft, and you have to be that no matter what. Like, you've always got to be trying to figure out how to make what you do better. Sometimes it's a little intimidating when you're around better musicians, but that's where you need to be.
Well, that's how you get good.
Yeah. And sometimes it's intimidating to listen to the top producers, but that's what you need to be listening to. Whatever you want, go straight to the best and see what they're doing. That's typically what I do. That keeps me motivated even now, and I hope that the young people do the same, because, you know, I hate meeting these guys that have these drum machines under their arm and they don't know any keys, they don't know any. Yeah. They can only do one genre, and they can, you know, they're just limited. Whereas Stevie and Ray and Quincy and all the greats, they could do so many genres, man.
So give me some specific albums that people should listen to.
Oh, wow. Well, I will tell you, I think that Stevie in the 70s, great time for Stevie Wonder. Mm-hmm. Quincy in the 70s.
Yep.
Michael in the 80s, just for production value.
Yeah.
Donald Fagen, anything. Steely Dan, back and forth, whatever you want to do with that. I love the Police. I think that their earlier stuff just did it for me. It really did. But you know what? Soul Cages was great in a different way, and, you know, so was Fragile. I mean, was it Nothing Like the Sun or Nothing Under the Sun? Was it Nothing Like the Sun? Whatever that Sting album was, it was killer. But it wasn't just great. It was great, period. Not just great production, not just great vocal. All of it was great.
Right.
And then all the way over to the Carpenters. And I say that because at any given moment, you might go into Kanye's CD collection and find the Carpenters in the car. In the car, you know, right. John Mayer. And I just want, you know, these young people, because they're in a time that I think is really interesting, too. We went through a phase where we really liked our genre, and then we woke up and said, wait a minute, we're not the only guys on the planet.
Right.
I remember that being the case in the 70s. We lost that somewhere in the 90s, and then we're now getting back to it now with this iTunes generation, where they're not loyal to any genre. They're just listening to everything. I like that. I think that's healthy. So whatever these kids are doing, just learn the theory, learn what you're doing, and get better and better at. Focus on just getting better at that, you know, whatever it is.
So give us your contact information.
Sure.
Where can people go to find out more information about you, listen to your new stuff, or to pitch you something?
The easiest way is craigaking.com.
So craigaking.com. Craig, appreciate you being here. Look forward to hearing more stuff from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, that'll do it. Another episode of Music Business Radio. For more from us, check us out online at musicbusinessradio.com. Join me next week when I'll interview another industry guest.
Thank you for listening to Music Business Radio. Music Business Radio is a production of Lightning 100 Tuned In Broadcasting Incorporated, Nashville, Tennessee. Produced by Gary Crane, Dan Buckley, and David Hooper. Pro Tools post-production by Justin Hamill. Production coordination by Jesse Smith. And Lester held the cue cards. Pro audio support provided today by DigiDesign with exclusive in-studio guitars courtesy of Waterstone Musical Instruments. For more information about Music Business Radio, visit musicbusinessradio.com. We are Music Business Radio, broadcasting from WRLT Studios at Marathon Village, Nashville, Tennessee.
Music Business Radio.
You've been listening to Music Business Radio, brought to you by Avenue Bank, dedicated to serving the music business industry. Find out more at thedifferenceisreal.com.